Hey, all right. So we just want to do a quick little video. A new toy I got. This toy is pretty special to me. When I was in high school, late 70s, I graduated high school in 1980. When I was a sophomore, junior in high school, I guess, my dad came home with a computer. And we don't think that's unusual now, but in 79 out in the country where we were, yeah, that was pretty weird. But Dad was a computer programmer, and he actually took on a contract job for Lincoln Welding Supply, as well as for another a cattle company, to use these new computers that were coming out, create some software for them to not only do their accounting and billing, but also to keep track of their inventory and things. And Dad was writing this program. So he actually brought the computer to the house and was writing the programs and stuff in the spare time. He was currently employed as a programmer at that time, I believe, with North Star Steel there in Beaumont. But anyway, so he brought a computer home, and this is what I learned the computer things on. And I had an opportunity to buy a computer, very similar computer, and actually I've been watching it for a while. It finally got to a point that I thought was fair, and we made a deal on it, made the agreement, went and picked it up, and I'm going to show it to you, but it's in pieces right now, and I'll explain why as we go in. But let me show you what we got. Well, there it is, kind of tore together. It's kind of hard to tell what it is, but it is a Radio Shack TRS-80 Model 3. You notice there's no disk drives. It's got spots for disk drives, but there was none. In this one, it probably ran off the cassette deck. We'll talk more about that here in a few minutes. So here's the whole computer. Let me go through and show you how it works right quick. It's pretty interesting. This is really what this thing is about. What I found really interesting about this is this TV. We deal with a lot of monitors here at the arcade. And here's the tube and what we call the chassis board down here. Most of these things, even on the tubes and stuff, they're much bigger, obviously. But in computer games, like those sitting over there, the monitors run on 110. Well, not this bad boy. She actually runs on 12 volts, which that was a surprise to me. And there's so very little to the board down there. There really wasn't much to it, which makes it a little bit interesting on the quality of the picture and stuff. The power supply, which is this, generates positive 12 and negative 12 and 5 volts. I got the machine, it was fully running. He showed me that it ran, and but after running for about an hour, lots of smoke out of the top of the machine and stuff, and I thought, oh man, it's still on. But the computer was still running, which was kind of interesting. Well, right here in this power supply, power comes in here, goes through this fuse, and in through there was a capacitor. This capacitor there was sitting right there, and it's just an FCC capacitor. In other words, it's just there so that it doesn't produce radio frequency that interferes with TVs and things of this nature. Well, this capacitor are notorious for going bad and for doing that. Yeah, just totally blew out and smoke. And they smoke a lot and they smell terrible. But take it out, it runs fine without it. I will eventually put another one in it just because I probably should anyway. But when I do, I'm going to rebuild and replace all the capacitors in here. I believe they're 40 years old, so we probably ought to replace them. Although the machine boots and runs fine without it. This back component here, all the way this inside this metal cage, and you can see it in there. Well, that's the computer. So the computer actually was sitting in there, and all this space here would just kind of, the tube sits right here, so it takes up this space, and then you have a place for the two hard drives that would mount here above the above that side of the laptop and in this area here. So there's really not a whole lot of space to put things. There's the old style click keyboard, which I absolutely love. You've got a really good tactical feel to this keyboard, which is really neat. There's power switches are here. This is your reset button. You push that. This actually says 16K, but this machine's actually been upgraded to the maximum amount of 48K. Yes, folks, it has 48K of memory in this thing. All right, it's a beast. Over here on the side are the monitor controls. The brightness here and then the contrast is here. Both of these controls were here, easy access for the monitor and tied back. Now what the guy that I bought it from had done is that there is a product out there that they call the FRED. The FRED, F-R-E-D, is actually done by a gentleman named Frederick something like in Sweden. So it's his hard drive. And basically what it is they use the same floppy drive controllers that was available back in the day, still in the machine, that's all built in there. And he made a card to uses SD cards. So this SD card, which is tied in now to the drive, is partitioned in, I believe right now, 3 different operating systems and like 9 different drives. So when the machine boots up, I have 3 different choices. One's all games, one is one type of LDOS, which was the disk operating system for the Radio Shack computers and CPM style. It has a Z80 computer in it. So anyway, there's 3 different ones. I'm not sure. I haven't played around with it enough to know exactly what's the 2 difference between the 2. But anyway, it's pretty common when you get a FRED that it has those 3 things loaded in it. Lots of games and stuff on it. But anyway, I'm going to pause the video and then we're going to put the top back on it. We'll fire it up and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. We got it back together again, and that's really what she looks like just sitting there, which is really kind of a neat looking, actually pretty modern looking terminal at the time. You know, it has it's got a nice look to it, nice appeal. There's some scratches on the case, but just because, you know, this was made in 81, I believe. The power switch is here. We're going to kick it on. When it turns on, it makes really no noise at all, simply because, well, there's no fan, there's no thing. First thing it does, it comes up and says, hey, do you have a cassette? And actually, it's CASS with a question mark, and actually what it's asking there is, do you want a high-speed or low-speed cassette, depending on what type of cassette we're doing loading. But we don't care, it defaults to high, so we're just going to hit enter. And then it says memory size. So it actually has the ability to where you can tell the system, don't use up, it has 48K. You can tell it, look, only use the first 32K because in the back sections, we're going to put stuff up there, subsystems or device drivers, whatever, up in that higher section. So don't mess with that. So what he's saying is, do you want me to specify or should I just use it all? Well, we're just going to hit enter and we're going to tell it to use it all. And boom. Now it comes up and says, hey, it's Radio Shack Model 3 Basic. It's an 80s Tandy. How about that? Radio. Now, what's interesting, this thing is in Basic right now. It boots into Basic. So you can run simple basic commands. Quote. Hello space WORLD in quotes, and look at there, it says hello world. So, and you can start programming 10 whatever. Now if we want to boot into some of the other games and things, so what we can do are come in on the FRED. So what we're going to do is we're going to press the reset button. it hits the Fred, and now the Fred comes up, and we have multiple multiple operating systems there, so you can see the different ones. And this is the Fred system. So actually, I'm very impressed with this. And then you simply use the up and down keys, which is interesting. The up and down keys are on this side. The left and right keys are on this side. Left and right, up and down. Don't ask me why they did that. They just did it. So we can go down to the one that says, hey, let's get LDOS 3 games, and let's load it up, and let's see what it does. So you hit this, and now it loads up LDOS version 5.3, and now it says it's ready. And now, just like the old days, we could put in dir and do a directory, and we hit enter, and there it is. Look at all the games. So there's just tons of games on here. So we're going to run down. Look at all those games. Just all the different games we have in there. Yeah, isn't that cool? So, and you know, a lot of these games were emulating games that were out at the time. For example, there's one right there called Phoenix. You see it? So all we have to do now is type in PHENIX, hit enter, and boom. It says it's called Star Cresta, but basically this is a very weak attempt, well, very good attempt at making the Phoenix game with Phoenix arcade game with a TRS-80. You hit enter, look, there they are. So you can move your ship back and forth. There's fire buttons, and see, look at him go. And they actually have all the different scenes. That it's really hard to play this game with only one hand. But they have all the different, it even has somewheres, I don't remember where it is. One of these, you can even do there it is, the shield. Remember how you can do the shield? So it's got everything that the old Phoenix game does. It's the question mark that does that. How about that? So there she is, Radio Shack TRS-80 emulating Phoenix using a Fred drive. Anyway, my new toy, I'm happy with it. All right. See you guys later. Hey, listen, if you live in the Houston area and you haven't been to the Game Preserve yet, you need to go.